It's nice to see you again in this video. So now we are working on our another lab in our union attack. Now this lab, it is for our SQL union attack, retrieving data from other tables. I'm going to just right click to this, open this in another tab so that we can read through this lab and we can play around it. So coming to our lab, it is still loading. So here they go on and tell us that the lab contains a SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. The results from the query are returned in the application's response, so you can use the union attack to retrieve data from other tables. To construct such an attack, you need to combine some of the techniques you learned in the previous labs. So let's say if you watched my previous two videos, you'll be able to understand this very well. Then they tell us that the database contains different table code users with columns called username and password. To solve this lab, perform a SQL injection union attack that retrieves all usernames and passwords and use the information to log in as an administrator. So simply here, after we find the username and password, our target is to log in as an administrator to our web application. So if this was our Linux machine, this is now the privilege escalation. So let's go on and try to work on this lab. So I'm going to click to access lab. Before we proceed to anything, we need to first understand how many columns are being called from our first query. Then we can proceed to injecting our union attack and see if we can find our username and also the password. So we already know the user means even administrator, but we just need to know the password. So let's come back this side. We see that it is just sort of like a blog. We need to understand the columns. So let me just open up my Obsidian. With our union based attack, it follows two rules, or with our union clause in SQL, it will follow two rules whereby data type should be compatible and the number of columns should be the same in all queries. So this is what we saw in our previous videos. So let's try to structure up a query that we might use to see if we might find our information of the username and password. So since we already know where the vulnerability is, our command will be like with a single quote. Then we go to our union. Then we bring our select. Since our target is to find the username, it will be username, comma, password from which table? The table was users. If you remember, let's go back here. They say that we have a different table called users. So this is users, and we shall comment whatever will come before this. So this will be the command that we shall inject into our application and see if we may get back our username and password. But before we do that, we need to first understand the columns compared to the previous labs that we worked on. We are going to just use order by, and we are going to start by 1 and comment out the rest. Or if you don't use order by, you can just go with our union and we say select. Then this is where you provide your null and also comment out the rest. So I'm going to use order by, just copy this, comma, come to my application. Then let's see where can we inject our data. We are on all, and perhaps let me click to accessories. This is what we have under accessories. And let me first check whether this is vulnerable. I'm going to just put a single quote and proceed with that. You see that we get a internal server error. So this is vulnerable, and perhaps let me go back, and perhaps let's go with pets. Again, I'm going to provide a single quote here and see if also this is vulnerable. So if I proceed with that, you see that also here we receive an internal server error. So now this is where I can proceed to injecting up and see how many columns are returned. So I'm going to go on and paste my order by one and press enter. So if I execute that, this is our query. I see we start with a GMP and the rest. This has been, because I see only this, but before I even run this, I need to first be sure of how our information looks before I submit this, because this is sort of like a blog. If I submit my paste, I see giant, pet, p, and more. So let me go on and paste this again and see if I might have any change. And I'm going to submit this. So we see our titles have been sorted alphabetically, and I guess this is one column. Let's go on and perhaps try on another one and see if we have a second column. I'm going to paste that. This time I'm going to say order by 2. So if I submit that, this time I see paste, which is pp, should be down, but I see right now it is on top. And I should expect, I guess they are sorting them with these values we have down here, because here we start with a G, I, T, and W, which means we have a title and we also have sort of the content. Those are 2 columns. Let's go on and check, do we have a third one? Going to remove that, paste my query again, put a 3. So here I should go for a 3. So if I submitted that, we get an internal server error. So simply this means we have 2, because with the third one we receive a internal server error. So since we know that now we have 2 columns, now we can proceed to getting back our data. So this is where, before we proceed to getting back our username and password, we have to know whether these are using a string or numeric as the data type. How can we do that? This is where we can go on with our union select and we test the values that are being called out. So this is where I'll go on and say union select the first one. I'll just, let's say, put a letter in quotes and test that and see. In case that brings an error, I'll go on and move to the second one. I'll provide that with null, comma, then we put quotes to the second one, and in case that returns back our data, we shall be able to see everything. Or I can go on and provide perhaps something. Let me just go back. Or I just provide the values. Let's say I provide here a comma, then I also provide perhaps a B here. So very sure that all the columns that we do have are returning back strings, since I see text, but we have to first be sure. I'm going to go on and copy this. Let's inject it in our application. and let me paste that. It is. So I'm going to submit that. I have internal server error. Did I mess up anywhere? So paste that. Paste union select. I provide a, then come back here, comma. I missed a null. So submit that. Now if you try to see here, and here at the bottom, we see that we have our A, which means our first column has a string type. And let's go to the other one. I can even combine these. So let me just go back to my Obsidian and copy this one here, which has A and B. And I'm going to come submit that. In case it is successful, we shall have A and B displayed to our front end. So if I submit that and scroll down, let's see, we have A and B. So we've confirmed that the two columns that are being called have the string types. So now we can proceed to calling out our information from the users table. This is where we can move on and use this query that I made on the start, which is union select username, comma, password from users, and we comment out whatever will come before this. So here, the username, we know it will be in text. For the password, many developers, they use varchar. Simply, those are strings, though we can have a mixture of numbers and characters or strings. So we can just copy that, come this side, remove this, and I'm going to paste that. So if I submit this, let's see if our information was returned back. So here we have this user and the password, and we do have the username and password of the administrator. So I'm going to copy those, come back to my Obsidian, document this. So they wanted us to log in as an administrator on the system. I'm going to copy that, come back to my application, because this is the end. I guess if we log in, our lab will be solved. So I'm going to click on my account, paste the username, which is administrator. Can come back to my Obsidian. I'm going to copy the password, come back and paste this. So if we log in and we see our lab has been solved. So now an attacker can use this kind of attack in your application in case if it's not secure. In case they get your username and password, they will be able to do something like what we did here in our lab. So this is where you need to have your secure coding and sanitization in your code so that you stay away from this kind of attacks. So I'll be seeing you in the next video as we are working on another lab on our Portswinger Academy. Have a great day. Peace.